Welcome, everyone, to DEI After 5, the show that focuses on topics across diversity, equity, and inclusion with some of the brightest minds in the industry. Here's your hostess, inclusive culture curator and coach, Sacha Thompson.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of DEI After 5. Thank you for joining us. I am very excited about this episode. As one of the things that I often talk about with my clients and coaches is giving ourselves grace, right? You'll often hear me say, give people grace and space. And so what does grace look like? What does that mean? So we are going to dive into that topic today with my guest, Yvonne Alston, who is the CEO of Indelible Impressions Consulting. Yvonne, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today, Sacha. This is going to be an amazing conversation.
I truly believe that too. So for folks who may not know who you are or have not seen you on these social media streets, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Yes, these social media streets. And let me tell you, these DEI streets are bananas right now, but I'm happy to be a part of the community nonetheless. I would like to say at heart, I'm a culturist. I love working with different organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, university systems, governmental entities to advance capacity building, leadership skills, and all under the foundation of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm also an unapologetically authentic human, which basically means that I don't make myself small anymore to fit in spaces so that I'm more palatable to others. I'm very clear about who I am and the things that I am unapologetic about. One of those is that I am a Black woman with very short hair and loving it, that I am a woman of faith, and that my faith is a core value of my own, and that I believe in our ability to engage with one another in a way that really advances the humanity within us and within the community.
Yes. I just needed to take a breath after that because I think that we've forgotten how to be human, right? I think that we've forgotten how to see others as human. And, when you and I were talking and for the prep for this, we were talking about this whole cancel culture, that's out there of just cutting people off. And if it's not my way, then I don't want anything to do with it, which is causing so much harm. And so when we talk about, the humanity of this work, just humanity, period, what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you?
So many things. I would say that we understand that we are all intersectional beings with a combination of lived experience and professional expertise that meets everyone else in workplaces and in community. In some regard, we are the sum total of our experiences. And what that means is that informs how we see the world, how we experience the world, how we desire to be experienced by others. And I think that that's something that has gotten lost in the sauce of life, that has gotten lost in all of the politics around our fellow humans, what it means to be a human being, what it means to be in community. And I think that we need to get back to that. We desperately need to get back to that, which is why diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, accessibility, justice, all of those principles are so critical. they're critical to us as human beings, of our ability to show up, to thrive, and to engage again in community in such a beautiful, meaningful, and impactful way.
Yeah, I mean, as you're speaking, what I've envisioned was this human tapestry, right? Like all of
Mm,
our differences um, are what makes the connection work, right? What
yeah.
makes everything um, makes our differences beautiful in
Mm,
this space. And in the politics of it all, as you're talking, it's that's what's being used to divide us. And
absolutely.
that is not what this human experience is about, right? It is supposed to be, how do we join together despite our differences? We may not see eye to eye on everything, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is fine, as long as we respect each other and we honor each other as humans. And so, again, with this human tapestry, what I was seeing was like it being pulled apart
Mm,
because of difference. I don't like you because of this part of your identity. You don't know me.
right. Right.
There are other parts of me that you have no idea about that we can be so connected, in. And then the other thing, well, yeah, I want us to talk about that because my brain, folks know, like my brain is all over the place. But I think that is, how do we start to work toward, regardless of our differences, our
Mm.
different life experiences, our professional expertise, as you said, how can we honor that as something that's positive?
So I think it's understanding that every single one of us has intersectionality, and also understanding that if we would actually take the time to have conversations, we might actually find that we have more in common than
Mm,
what separates us. So when we think about the languaging and the principles of bridging, oftentimes the way that I view it and the way that myself and my team teach on it is, typically people are thinking about a bridge as you're on one end and I'm on the other end. And so we've got all this space between us, all this ground that we have to make up to figure out what connects us.
mm,
And I like to frame it in the complete opposite. Let's get real close and let's talk about the things with some vulnerability, empathy, compassion, grace, right?
mm,
And have those conversations about the things that matter most deeply to us. And we might actually find that we have more in common and we have less space between us than people might assume based on what we look like, where we grew up, what our educational background is, what's our socioeconomic status, whether one has disabilities or not, all of those aspects. So while it's uncomfortable in the beginning for most folks to come at engaging with one another in this framework, it ends up being really beautiful. And you kind
mm,
of get past all the superfluous nonsense or the things that oftentimes are less meaningful, the small talk, the
mm.
things that aren't really connective tissue. And instead, we start to tether to one another much quicker, but it does require something of us. It requires that we come to conversations and opportunities to engage with others with the least amount of preconceived notions, that we keep judgments at bay, and that when those unconscious biases come up and become conscious within us, we are doing those required things to mitigate them so they don't impede the connection.
You know, I tell you, my brain goes all over the place. 'Cause I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. What it reminded me of was, as a kid, and I still do this to this day, and I don't
Mm,
even know where it started, was I'm like, ooh, I want to find a bumper sticker buddy. And it
mm,
was just being in the car and looking at people's bumper stickers or whatever they had on their car, and trying to see what connection I had with them. I guess I was bored as a kid, but I still do it, right? So I will
Very
see
cool.
random things, right?
Oh, I
So
love that.
my dad was an Episcopal priest, right?
Okay.
Typically, you don't see Black Episcopalians, but there are a lot of us out here.
But you know
And
what?
so,
Thank you for that. Can I just intersect real quick on that? Thank you for that, because to your point, most people don't assume Black Episcopalian priests, but you just created, right, a tether point to others who might be listening to this to say, oh, wow,
yeah,
I attend a church where there's Episcopalian Black priest, or I know someone, or I didn't know that in terms of Catholicism and the culture. Beautiful.
right.
Beautiful.
But again, it's like, it's a game that I play with myself in,
Yeah.
okay, these are random people out here. What
Mhm.
connection do I have? And so bumper stickers or car stickers are like one of the things that I can do that's fairly safe. And
Yes.
so I'm like, oh, you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. Like, what
Yes.
else could we have in common?
Yeah.
And to your point, I don't think we do that enough in challenging ourselves and getting identity, physical identity out of the way.
Yes.
Right. I think we're so quick to connect with people on that space because it feels safe.
Mm.
But one, it may, they say all skin folk ain't kin folk. So we'll put that out there.
Correct.
But you may be missing out on other opportunities to connect with people.
Yes.
So, again, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, I worked in an organization where I was doing marketing, and they had asked me to support another team, and I had to meet with the head of sales for that team. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, we both live in the DC area. All right, what else do we have in common? And as soon as he walked in, he was like, so we both went to Johns Hopkins. And I'm like, yeah. He was like, I got my MBA from Johns Hopkins too. And immediately it just, okay, we have something in common.
That's right.
I mean, and we just had the best relationship after that because we had that common thing, right?
Yes.
And so it allowed me moving forward. I felt a level of comfort that when something went wrong or if there was an issue, we had that foundation.
Yeah.
And so I think so many of us overlook these opportunities to connect that aren't visible or maybe hidden in some ways, right? There may be folks that have children on the autism spectrum that you may not know unless something is disclosed. And so, as we're talking about space and grace, right? This is part of that space piece. This is part of how do you create these spaces where you can have these conversations, where you can challenge some of your biases, where you can figure out, okay, what I was taught as a child runs counter to what I'm experiencing right now.
And that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that we can do that in so many different environments.
Yes.
I've been in the grocery store and seen a child kind of in the basket with the parents, and the child is just miserable and just cutting up. And my husband always laughs at me because he's like, I swear you're the child whisperer. So I will do the most random, silly things to build community and to give those parents a moment of breath, to give them a sense of community that you're not in this alone. So I might peek behind a parent and play peekaboo. I might cover my face and be like, oh no, oh, we're not doing that, are we? Oh no, oh my goodness, how loud. Oh, do you have an inside voice? And and regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, these people could be looking like everything opposite than what I might look like, right? But you can again build some tethering, some connective tissue to these fellow humans in a way that might be meaningful. Another example, my husband and I, we sold our home several months back, we moved into this really beautiful high-end apartment community. And there's a beautiful mosaic of people there, different ages, races, abilities, socioeconomic, singles, married, partners, all the things. I keep referring to it as a mosaic. You use the word tapestry. Yes, both beautiful, interweaving, intersectioned mixings. And next door neighbor was moving in, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I think my children are loud." And I said, "Well, they do tend to use the hallway like a runway at 7:30 in the morning." But she said, "I'm so sorry. I'm a recent divorcee, and it's just been tough." And when we talk about grace and space, I was like, I'm remarried. I remember what it was like tapping into my own humanity as a single mom for a season of going through a divorce, trying to manage all the things, trying to balance life, being a working mom as well, all those things. And I was like, you know what? We're going to have to lay down like a landing strip or something here. And so her son, I made it a point to connect with her sons. And her little son, Oliver, he sees me and he's, "Miss Yvonne," and he screams at the top of his lungs. He comes barreling down the hallway. I drop whatever I have because I'm getting ready for the I'm like, okay,
come on, right.
He's going to knock me down. This is an NFL moment, but I'm here for it. And he gives me the biggest hug, and she goes, "He doesn't do this." And I dare say, I don't believe that I am necessarily so special, so unique. I think I've done exactly what you and I are talking about. It's creating grace and space for our fellow humans to say, I've got, to an extent, open arms for you. We might not look alike. We may not live alike. We may have differing perspectives. We may have differing politics. But the one thing that is common to us that can never be alien, I believe, Maya Angelou said, is that we are humans. And I know that's not the exact quote, but there is a quote that she has that supports that nothing can be alien to me and nothing can be alien to you because we share humanity. And I think if we can infuse that more in the way that we are engaging and intersecting with fellow humans who need oxygen the way we need oxygen, that needs space and grace just like we do every single day, because none of us are perfect humans, I think we can diminish some of the polarization that we have in society, and some of the divide and the factions that we have in our communities. Because going even into this political season, my goodness, people are entrenched and don't even fully understand, I find sometimes, why they are entrenched. But if we can create more grace and space, there can be more open dialogue, more education, and more moving away of the different barriers that are blocking our connection points.
You know what? Yes. And I'm always one to talk about like the need for community and understanding community and our responsibility in community.
That part.
And, sometimes it's challenging those folks that are in our communities to think differently, right?
Yes.
So part of my responsibility in, whatever community I'm in, I find that role is educator of some sort. Be it of new knowledge, be it to change mindset, whatever it is. And, again, speaking of this political climate, I was in a situation not too long ago where, this woman was talking about, oh, immigrants are just poisoning this country and blah, blah, going on a tirade. And the question, I asked was, so I'm going to change the subject, right? So we're good, right? She's, oh my gosh, I love the work you do. You know, you've been great and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you realize I immigrated to this country.
Mm.
I didn't become a US citizen until 2016, though I was raised here. And when I tell you the cognitive dissonance,
Oh, I am sure. I am
right?
sure.
And so it's like challenging folks. And I didn't do it. And going back to cancel culture, I could have easily been like, you know what? I'm done with her, done with you. And there are people I have cut out of my life because you bring nothing but stress to me. However, that's self-preservation. However, my approach was, let me educate, let me challenge what you think of. And so let's start to break down, when you say immigrant, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And let's be very specific about that. Because if you're talking about Black and brown immigrants,
yes,
like, do I fit that stereotype? Right? They're uneducated, all of these things. So let's challenge. And I think that that's a big part of being in community and giving that space and grace, is how do we educate in a way where we're not taking that burden on ourselves all the time, but we can at least lead people down a different path so that they can continue to educate themselves.
I agree. And, there's two thoughts I have. One is that cancel culture has created too much opportunity for discarding our fellow humans. That when we have a difference of perspective and opinion, that automatically we stage left, or we put them stage left, right? Because all of a sudden, that is all we think about them, is this one particular, perhaps verbal or even content of character misstep.
Yeah.
Right. And that becomes, then we decide that's the sum total of who you are.
Yeah.
Is this mistake you just made verbally, intellectually, whatever that is, culturally? And that's just not fair, because we are all imperfect beings. And so the fact that you took, then, my second point, the opportunity to say, rather than to let offense be my automatic response, I'm going to see if I can transform this into a learning opportunity for this individual that might further diminish bias and how this person sees immigrants, for them to understand that there was not only an unconscious bias, but also an ignorance that was there about how they frame their perspective and their ideologies around who is an immigrant. What does an immigrant embody? What are the characteristics? What is the look? What is the intellect? What are all these different things? And so I do think, and I'm thinking of my late dad, who said to me early in life a couple of wisdoms, and one of them was, make no mistake, you might be lighter skinned, but at the end of the day, you're still a Black woman. And so while some of your experiences might be very different and unfair to not only you, but also to the rest of the Black culture, that you are still a Black woman and people will treat you and mistreat you accordingly. Secondly, he said, whenever someone hurls, and back then we didn't have the language of microaggressions and all of that. So he framed it as a stereotype. Hurl a stereotype at you, you can do two things. You can confirm that stereotype, or you can choose to educate them and make them walk away scratching their head because you didn't fulfill the stereotype. And so while that we understand that is not necessarily our job, that is extensive emotional labor on our part and all these things we understand today, I grew up with that framework. And so I've oftentimes taken that perspective, unless it is so far egregious that there is hate spewing out of someone's pores and mouth and vitriol and rhetoric that is an assault on the senses, I will stay in that space. I will give you grace and I will strive with you in hopes that on the other side of that perhaps tense, very uncomfortable conversation, that something in you, if not in that moment, then as you're walking away, or as we like to say in the church, late in the midnight hour,
Yeah.
okay, something will pique your brain and be like, what is that? I
Yeah.
guess they're not all the same. I guess I was wrong. Or I didn't realize how harmful that thinking, those behaviors, or how reckless my mouth was earlier today, that there will be an opportunity for reflection. And I think that that's one of the best things that we can do is to give people grace and space, to give them the opportunity, when appropriate, because
Right.
context matters,
Right.
to reflect and allow people to, as they say, come to themselves.
Yeah. And not everyone's built to stand in the gap. Like
Yes.
I've come to realize and understand that.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that once you stand in the gap, you always stand in the gap, because that is a difficult place to be.
It's exhausting.
But but understanding that in order for things to change, something needs to give, and part of that is education. And so the question then becomes, what is your role? Are you going to continue to let these things happen and cancel everyone that opposes you? Where does that leave you?
Yeah.
And two, do you shift, right? And what does that shift look like? And that doesn't mean you stand in the gap all the time. You might stand up to one person, and that's what matters in that moment.
Yeah.
But then understanding, and it kind of goes back to giving ourselves grace as well.
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity right now to take this on. And so, yeah, I'm good. Right. Like I've had those moments too, where it's just like, nah, I'm good. I'll
today.
I'll deal with this another time. But right now,
yeah,
sister girl is in me and she's ready to come out, and this is not going to end well. So
yes,
let me just take a moment.
Yes. So I have to remind her, I call her the chick in my pocket. And she's got on stilettos and skinny jeans and a leather jacket and big hoop earrings. And she's not having it. It is a not today. No, not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but definitely not today.
Yeah. And
I
those
think
moments are okay too.
They are. That's what I was just about to say. They are okay, because you have to know where you're at as to whether or not you can give that grace and that space to someone else, and to judge that appropriately. Because otherwise, what I think happens is when we try to force ourselves into that, we can do harm. We can be a little reckless, right? And then we have to go back and ask for grace, ask for space to apologize, and all of these things. And not to say that mistakes are the end of the world, because mistakes oftentimes are stepping stones rather than setbacks, right? That said, it's about knowing when it's important for self-preservation to kick in for your mental health, for your emotions, or even for your physical safety, versus I can strive with you a little bit in this moment. I have capacity to strive with you to an extent. And when it gets beyond my capacity, then I got to know when to say, you know what, I'm not sure that we're connecting the way that I hoped we would. I think we both put in a great effort here, but it's just not syncing up. Perhaps we can come at this another time, right? And I'm thinking of the colleague situation or even a family member. Ironically, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking at an event, and the whole focus of that event is bridging perspectives, the art of civil discourse. And it's something that has been, as we started talking at the top of this podcast, that it's very much a lost art form. And what are the ways in which we can engage in ways that has a foundation of civility that is critical to, again, us being able to be in community with one another. And I'm going to keynote and I'm going to moderate a panel and have all these other folks opining who are experts in different areas and arenas of life, whether that's in politics and community building, professors, etc. And it's important. It's important that we understand how to engage with one another when we have different perspectives and experiences, and not to just throw people away and discard them, because you can have someone who has a very different perspective from you and you can still get coffee on Friday.
Right.
And your kids can still play together and all of these things, right? It doesn't have to be that I have to disengage from you in totality because you have a different political leaning than me, or, whatever the differences are.
What I think you're talking about, what clicked for me just now was it's a level of maturity.
Yes.
In this space.
Yes.
It is a level of, and we recorded another episode of the show where we were talking about the internal work. And a lot of people I have found that approach things with that cancel culture mindset have not done a lot of internal work on why they hurt or what they fear.
Yes.
And so there's a level of maturity that needs to take place in understanding, why am I reacting this way?
Yes.
Right? What is the hurt that I'm trying to protect myself from in this? And so again, that's giving ourselves a level of grace, giving ourselves the respect that we want to give ourselves, in understanding our why and how that has shaped who we are and what's happening. Because to your point, some people don't even know that they're causing harm, like they've made a mistake. We are human. Humans are flawed. And so to be able to cut someone off from one mistake says, okay, there's another level of hurt that's happening here that has nothing to do with that person.
Yep. And they're reacting.
And that needs to be unpacked. Right.
Yeah. And so it's required of us, I believe, especially those of us in this space, to do that self-work. I am a big fan of therapy. I think therapy is amazing. Quite frankly, I think because trauma is a great equalizer across humanity, that in order to do the least amount of harm on our fellow humans, I do believe we have a responsibility to go to therapy and work through some of those traumas, because whether you are technically in this space that you and I are both in or not, we know the old adage, hurt people.
Yes.
And so we have a responsibility, I think, as fellow humans, to try to do the least amount of damage possible. And if there are things that we have suffered, in order for the best version of me to show up for everybody else, I've got to do that work. Yeah. I absolutely have to. And that's something that I hold very dear as a principle for myself. And I talk about that a lot, that the best version of me for me is the best version of me for everyone else. Yeah. When I am healed, when I am whole, when I have capacity, when my well is full that people can come and draw from, then that is good, right? And then I am watering others. But if I don't do those things for me, I inadvertently, mistakenly will do harm. And so for me, that's risk mitigation 101. And I think also for me as a woman of faith, that
Yeah.
I have that responsibility as well.
Absolutely.
And I don't shy away from going after the one lost sheep. And that's just a part of my personality too. I keep using the term strive, but I will sit with you in, even if you are sometimes diametrically opposed to my mere existence. One of the most amazing conversations, most meaningful and pivotal conversations I've had in my lifetime was with a skinhead, a former skinhead who was all tatted up and literally had hate tatted on his throat. And he wanted to sit and have a conversation with me in the workplace because he was being othered. Ironically,
Really?
he was being othered. And he said, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to engage with me. This isn't who I am anymore. But I've got the cover of this book. And I said, well, yeah, it's kind of a scary cover, my friend.
Mhm.
And people were like,
Yeah.
are you going to sit and talk to him? Are you really? And I said, absolutely, because it's a learning opportunity for me. And clearly there's something that he wants to connect with me on that is important to him. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to hear him out. And what I discovered at the root of him joining that organization, just like any other community group, like gangs and things like that, he was looking for inclusion.
Yep.
He was looking for belonging.
Yep.
And he found himself joined up with this organization and then found himself at some point in life like, did some time in jail. This isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And through this conversation, I was able to coach him on how to bridge to other folks. I was able to talk with leadership and say, hey, I understand. Does great work, shows up on time, is performing well, all the things. And yet this book cover is limiting him. And so can I speak to his peers? Can I speak to his team in a way and try to create some tethering with him? And probably about a year ago, I had heard that he was still at the organization. He had actually made some friends that he was looking into having the tattoos removed because he actually had insurance and things like that and financial means to do that. And what a missed opportunity that would have been for me to have tested my mettle, so to speak. Am I made of strong stuff that I could do that? And all of the learnings that came from that. I learned more about the genesis of one's hate. I learned more about how important inclusion and belonging are. I learned more about resiliency. I just learned so much. But had I not had grace and made space, it never would have happened.
Yeah. And that's why I say, in these roles, we are constant students, right? We are not experts because there's something that we can always learn and grow and push ourselves in this space. You had a great transition just now when you talked about, giving from the well, right? How do you fill your cup? What are the things that you do to take care of you so that you can give to others? Because I think so many of us, and I'll say it often, we need to fill our cup so we give from our overflow. We can't give from an empty cup. We can't give from an empty vessel, right? So what are the things that you do to take care of you so that you can take on the kid that's about to wrestle you right in the hallway or the former skinhead? Because that takes a lot. So what are some of those things?
Yeah. I take the things that I give, right? So that grace and space, I give myself grace for when I need to step away, when I need to isolate, and take some more space for myself. One of the things that I'm a big fan of is what I call titleless time. Titleless time is when I isolate and kind of step away from all of the titles that I hold in my world and my life. So that means for a specific window of time, I'm not daughter, wife, mother, Auntie Yvonne, next door neighbor, catching random kids. I am not friend and all those things. I separate and withdraw myself so I can just be Yvonne for a limited amount of time and reconnect with her. Who is she? What does she need? Sometimes I need to go get lost in a crowd in a different geography where nobody knows me so that I can just be a face among many, put in my earbuds and window shop. And enjoy a hot cup of coffee. Or another practice for me is floating. It is where you go into a spa and you have this separate room with this kind of like a tub, and it has high salinity, and the whole goal is sensory deprivation. So no lights, no music, you can't even see your hand in front of your face, and you float quietly. And for me, that is my time to tether more deeply to the Trinity, and to literally become weightless as much as possible, not just in physical being, but weightless in mind, weightless in emotions, all of those things. So it's that. Even on days that are really hard and heavy, my husband and I have this understanding of, listen, it's been a really big day, a hard, a heavy day. I don't have capacity to engage. So we can breathe the same air. We can sit on this couch. We can watch this show. But in terms of like having a full-on discussion, I don't have capacity for that. Like, I just don't. And because of this work, and he knows how much I pour out, he gets it. And then he graces me to give me that space and say, okay, there's enough room, air in the room that we can breathe comfortably. And I always appreciate that, because that means that he understands me, he sees me, and he also gives me what I need so that I can go back to it the next day and do all that's required. What about you? What are some of your practices for refilling your cup, your overflow?
Yeah, so lately it's been just sitting and doing kind of nothing. And it's interesting. So we are in this space of like, we're getting some work done in our house. And so my office is temporarily moved upstairs. And I'm like, you know what? Just being in this different space, let me just sit here and do nothing. And I find that it allows me to be more creative, but also let go of things that I've been holding on to, because I'm very much this is the routine. And so now that my routine is off, it's allowed me to, I can do this. I can do this. So that's kind of been, filling my cup these days is, I can be totally creative in these spaces. I also am really thinking, I used to crochet, and I'm thinking of getting back into it. And
nice.
Speaking of therapist, speaking of therapist, she was like, do it for you. Because I used to do it. I was like, I had an Etsy shop, and I was just like, I'm not doing that, because I made it work. Yes. So now it's like, let me just get back into it and see what I create and just be. And that's another way for me to just kind of tune out the work. Yes. And focus on being creative in different ways. So yeah, it's always morphing for me. It's always morphing. And then when you mentioned the floating, I was like, there's a place in Alexandria that has one of those. Like, let me go try that out. Like, I would love, Yes. So I'm always looking for new things, but I asked that question because it looks different for everyone. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that go to the spa or,
Correct.
It can, but it doesn't have to be. So I appreciate your answers, because they're very real and honest. And I think things that people like, I could try that and see how it works for them. So Yvonne, if people wanted to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Definitely on LinkedIn. I'm always on there, myself and my team, posting content, different perspectives, opening up conversations and dialogues with fellow humans, as well as on Instagram, Indelible Impressions has its own IG. So we're always on there posting content, trying to drive conversation and thought partnership with various individuals. And on YouTube as well. Someone said to me recently, I Googled you, and I went, okay, that's just weird. It's like, but at the same time, I thought it was kind of cool. And they were like, there's a lot of content out there on you, whether it's on being on podcasts like this and getting amazing opportunities to be in community and have conversations like this, or it's something that Indelible has put out directly. So YouTube is another place. And our website, obviously, indelible-consulting.com, lots of great info on there. And we're really excited. We're getting ready to launch our learning hub. We have an LMS that people can go in and actually take e-learning courses. Wonderful. So we're rolling that forward in 2025. So a lot of exciting things going on. Wonderful. So yeah, lots of different places, anywhere where we can create grace and space for conversations just like this. So thank you so much, Sacha, for the opportunity to spend this time with you and talk about this topic that just has resonated so deeply with the both of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And, I was thinking just now, I'm like, I feel like just so calm after this conversation, because I think it's needed. Right. When we talk about space and grace and honoring ourselves in this space. So I appreciate you and the work that you do and just allowing us to have this space together to have this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope that you are able to find something to connect with. Challenge yourselves in ways to give yourselves space and grace while you give others the same. Tune in every Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Find us on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. And until next time, have a good one.